Welcome to the Digital Business Leader Level Up. This is a virtual lunch and learn podcast series, and I am Majesty AliNICOLE WOW, and I am joined again by the awesome, amazing, too many adjectives to describe his greatness, King Rob Deptford here, and definitely looking forward to what we're going to be sharing today. We typically don't have a set agenda as it relates to what we're going to talk about. We just allow organically the space to kind of present what would be of the highest value that we can provide to you as digital business leaders during this time to help you level up. King Rob, looking forward to being with you and sharing more value during this time.
Well, these are fun. I just follow your lead. You get into these hot topics, and it seems like I have something to say about them. So.
Listen, you always have something to say because you're being modest over there, and so I'll toot your horn for you. But you certainly, as it relates to the digital business space, authority, as it relates to the leveling up aspect for sure. And over the years, you definitely have been demonstrating high quality, not just thought leadership, but really evolutionary leadership. And I think that what you've done is really exceptional in terms of just the different layers and levels that you provide as a demonstration for leadership. So I'm always glad that we are having our dialogues and conversations and helping others to benefit.
Well, I appreciate that. I guess I'm trying to be ahead of the curve. That's aren't we all really?
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely. We need to be
Yeah.
ahead of the game, ahead of the curve. We need to be expanding because one thing that we know about the digital space, it is always rapidly changing. And if business leaders are not continuously on the evolutionary edge, then they're going to find themselves consistently behind the eight ball, and then finding themselves, and I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it, being more charitable, nonprofit types of operations than businesses. And that's a whole nother topic to get into, but I'm definitely not afraid to address that.
Yeah, I think it even goes beyond that. I think there's
Yeah.
there's an element of that for sure for smaller businesses and solopreneurs. But there's a lot of room for growth and improvement, even with large corporate enterprises in the digital space,
Absolutely.
who
It
have
applies to
been,
all levels.
yeah, let's say there's some resistance to change out there. Let's call it that. So.
There is resistance to change. And then when there's resistance to change, there's also resistance to revenue expansion, which most people in business are looking for the expansion as it relates to the profitability, but the resistance and the rebellion to the change actually blocks the expansion of that revenue. Then what starts to happen is that businesses, especially larger corporations, they start to want to improve on systems that they have already, not understanding that those systems are breaking down for a reason, and there's a reason for their profiting plateau, if you will, because they're not allowing themselves to actually do something not new and improved, but actually do something different to bring about the greater change that's underway anyway. Don't get me started, King Rob.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. You know that it's and it's easy to get stuck in a rut when things are working. I think that's the big challenge. If
Yes.
if everything seems okay, business is going really well, you're generating revenue, everything seems like it's not broken, so there's nothing to
Don't fix
fix.
it. Right. Yeah,
You can get stuck in a place where you fail then to look forward and anticipate what's next.
absolutely. And, you hear me talk a lot about playing from both sides of the track. And so it's okay to be, in, if we want to call it improvement or so, or doing what works or doing more of what works in the business during a certain time. But at the same time, there's always going to be the opportunity to also be building for the next level, even when you don't necessarily know what that's going to be, but you certainly want to be making sure that you are doing some next level development. Now, King Rob, something that I have seen consistently over the years that has worked for any type of business is when they can have a signature storehouse of products that others can avail themselves to, and even in non-linear ways. It doesn't always have to be products that are based solely on the business, let's say the chief primary focus, of the business. So I'm going to use the restaurant chain for just, as an example, even though it's probably not the best example, but it's the one that's coming to mind at this time. So how whether it's McDonald's or Burger King, different chains, they may be known for a specific thing, but they do have other sides, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of those other offerings don't necessarily have anything to do with their signature offering. So if a company or franchise is specialized in burgers, so to speak, but it doesn't mean that they can't also have a chicken sandwich, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
And
Go
it,
ahead.
you think about those fast food restaurants, they've tried lots of things over the years. I remember
Mhm.
when McDonald's tried salads.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
actually they failed miserably here in Canada, where they just didn't do well. People
Yeah.
don't go to McDonald's for a
For,
salad,
for salad. Yeah. Uh,
without trying it, they wouldn't know.
Yeah,
Right?
right, right. And the thing about it is they actually did pretty well in the States at one point. But what it is that sometimes certain products or offerings are seasonal, like when McDonald's will bring back the McRib sandwich.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so some things are seasonal, but you need to actually have those elements to be able to bring forth. Now, you brought up the salads. Now they still in some areas still do sell the salads. Now the salads aren't necessarily the signature thing, but because they are available, people know, oh, I can get that and I'll get it in addition to this. But the point, of bringing this up was that you do have to have some side offerings or some different components that sometimes are not they may seem not even related to what your signature offering is. The thing about it is being able to add value or to provide a need in some area, and also to not limit, the revenue factor, even if it does bring in at certain points just a little bit. Obviously, in a smaller business, you don't want to get to spending a lot of marketing dollars, for things like that. But you definitely can beta test things for sure. Your thoughts, King Rob?
Well, I think that's where, if you're a small business, you look at things like surveys or focus groups, to get an idea of, do you have a minimum viable product or
Yes.
service?
Mm-hmm.
And if there's some interest in small numbers, then perhaps there is opportunity to scale.
Right, 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 right. And even if you are looking at scaling for a season and during, like I said, doing certain things for a season, you think about whether it's restaurants or just even department stores or so. There's at Christmas time or the holidays, they already know from whether last year's projections or so what's going to work, or if they bring something out new, they know sales are going to be at a higher volume during those times. And so this is something, since we're going here, this is
Yeah.
presenting itself in the space. So, so business leaders, here is something that you can really focus on in terms of looking at your peak seasons in business and then doing a double up or a double down in some areas. And then looking at what you can leverage during, if you want to call it kind of an off season. In the solo entrepreneur world, where there's tons of seasons of the feast and famine, so to speak, a lot of that is simply happening because it's not so much that there's not a demand for what they are providing. Sometimes they're marketing things off season, or they are not in alignment with really the rhythm of the marketplace, so to speak. But they need to look at where are their highest times of profitability, and then start doing more of that during a certain time, so that whenever you feel like things are kind of, I guess, drifting off, so to speak, you can still have leverage from what you've done in your other seasons. It's more like the hibernation type of King Rob. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like that, when they gather for hibernation, so to speak, during a certain season, um, and or they harvest during a certain season. So that's a whole nother training for sure. Um,
Well, you're right. I mean, the retail example is the perfect example
mhm.
because they make or break their fiscal year
Yes,
during the holidays.
right,
And so whatever they do the rest of the year, they know is really just gravy. But
right.
when the holiday season comes, that's when they know they have to be really focused on doing their business. And so you will see some special offerings at that time.
Hmm.
Often that's when the big sales start to happen with Black Friday now and stuff, right? That
Right, right.
um, where they try to get more traffic into the stores or into their online businesses.
Hmm.
So when you understand the cycle of your business,
Hmm.
and that takes time to show up
It
for
does.
most people who are not in the retail business. It takes time to watch and analyze and see what sells and when it sells.
Hmm.
But eventually patterns do emerge, and
Right.
that's where you can see, okay, well, during the summer, I sell a lot of my online course in whatever the field
Hmm.
is. So maybe
Hmm.
that's a good time to offer a bump to the order
Hmm.
and also offer my book or,
Exactly. You
something that
read
you
my
can
mind.
get
Yeah.
multiples from. So
Absolutely. And so you do have to look and pay attention to the patterns of profitability for sure, and continue to level up in those areas. So I brought up earlier about signature storehouses and products, and not necessarily that you have to have a lot of products, but let's say that for a solo business, a solopreneur, that you have some type of signature offering that you provide primarily all year round, but you don't see the peak potential of that all year round. So there are different ways that you can look at scaling I would say it's scaling in a much more successful way, where something that you offer, let's say a 9-month program, look at how you can maybe tailor that to be some type of VIP intensive, whether it is for a weekend, whether it is something that you're going to offer for a VIP month, like 30 days, or also look at how can you maybe create a 90-day mastermind. So anything that you would do in 9 months, how can you make that profitability in less time, serving more people, and also accelerating people in a very uncommon way. And then when you have off season, so to speak, I don't like to call any season off season, but you get it, King Rob. There are, as we've been talking, different peak potential seasons. If you create product versions of your signature offerings, so to speak, whether they are audio courses, video courses, or publications in different formats, then you can, in your quote unquote off season or gravy train season, you can offer those products, or focus more on those products if you're not going to be doing more of your longer programs or some of the intensives. Your thoughts, King Rob?
well, I think there's a system that develops around that
Hmm.
because, and we've talked about leverage in other episodes.
Yes.
And, as we're recording this, I've got a 7-day podcast launch challenge coming up in
Yes.
about a week's time. And
Hmm.
it's a live event. It's live over Zoom, so
Yes.
virtually live.
Hmm.
And it will be recorded. And so we'll do this one
Hmm.
live, but because it's recorded, it can then be taken and made into a pre-recorded digital product.
Absolutely.
And maybe I can't charge the same because it's not live, but I can still
Right.
have it available. And I don't really have to do any more work to then have
Mm-mm.
that secondary product available for sale.
Absolutely. And that's the power again of leverage, the lucratively leveraging what you do, and also being able to, you brought that up, it's something that I've done over the years is even when I'm doing something that's live, so to speak, I will also already have a introductory product version to that, sometimes as even a lead in, not all the time, but I have done that and it's worked, very well, and then still leverage whatever aspects I can of the recorded version, to leverage, as a product. There's so many different ways, that different opportunities and offerings can be leveraged. And this helps to build up that signature storehouse that I was talking about, but also different variations of the same thing that helps to, how can I say, reach people at different levels. So another example, King Robin, you've, seen this with me in terms of even publications. So in some of my bigger books, I've broken them down into smaller publications where I take a chapter or two, and then that has a concentrated focus. And then there's interaction in terms of workbook or journal pages or so for them to do master planning. And what I found over the years, in terms of having those different varieties of one thing, is that there were people who they really wanted to dial in on just the specifics during that time instead of having the whole thing, before them. Then there were individuals who just wanted kind of an introductory, and then some wanted kind of a deep dive. So there was an opportunity to take from things I facilitated live, of course, and make multiple versions. But even before I was facilitating some of the live, I would always, not always, I'm sorry, I would often have some other version that was already a preliminary, that then what I found is it would actually save me from actually having to go over certain things in the particular training, and then I was able to expand more. But the point of bringing this up, King Rob, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that, is that these are ways, and we talked about this in the last segment, that business leaders primarily, we're talking about digital space, you need digital products and digital presence for sure. These are ways that you can serve people at these different levels. And then if you're not really focused on offering these products all year round, again, there could be a certain time where you do like what I've done in media tours. And King Rob, you and I have had conversations about this, and you even have an example of this where you remember Scholastic Books. If anybody is up there with King Rob and I, they, they will know about when that was really big. And during certain times of the year, or like once a year, twice a year or so, they would come to schools, and then there would be the book fairs, and then they would make their profitability during those times at in certain regions, for sure. And then King Rob, I know that in some of the other trainings that we've done together, you've also talked about, I don't know if it was a friend of your wife's, or someone, or a family member or so, that used to do an event every year or every so often, and then they would make their profitability from that event.
Yes, so that's yeah, that's somebody local here that we know.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, that she holds an event
mm-hmm,
in a nearby ski town once a year. So it's a beautiful location
mm-hmm,
with a fancy hotel. And so it's a destination people are drawn to anyway
mm-hmm.
for other reasons. And then she has this event where she does it's essentially it's a conference with concurrent
Right.
sessions,
Mm-hmm.
and people pay to come to this event. It's a ticketed event, and it's her whole annual revenue essentially made in a weekend.
Yeah, absolutely right. And that is
Everything else
very
she does is
possible.
bonus.
Exactly. And that is very possible. And something I've done throughout the years, King Rob, you've heard me talk about this, is doing virtual media tours where it can set you up for like 1 to 2 years, depending on, what your goals are, and everything. And it stops you from having to do so much marketing. And there are ways that business leaders, even in the online space, can create those opportunities, whether it is in the weekend, a week, or maybe 30 days, or maybe you take 90 days out to do it. And when I say 90 days, not literally every day, it's just during that time frame. Maybe you do host, certain, whether they're events or you have opportunities. So earlier, when I talked about looking at taking something that maybe takes 9 months, or, a longer program, and then doing a VIP day or weekend, some type of intensive, or a 30-day version of it, or a 90-day type of mastermind. So when you can break things up and be able to put them in a more systemized way, where you're going to be leveraging time for sure, right, King Rob?
Well, absolutely, yeah, and I know everybody says it's gonna take too much time, I don't have the time for this, but there is a way.
There is, wait a minute, there is always a way. There's always a way, because sometimes when we talked about this in other segments too, things that slow people down is what they actually think is really required to do all these different things. I remember when telesummits, were really, really big. And like me, I do summit. I've got a whole background on that, but I have products that are summit based, products. You can put events into a product and not necessarily all the time have to have people show up to a live something, but you can have a live event. I remember early on in my entrepreneurial journey, so to speak, when I was doing a lot of facilitation for others and emceeing, if you will, different virtual events. And I remember one specific that was around the secrets of a shameless self-promoter. And I was the facilitator of that event. And it was a two-part event. It was a virtual event and it was a live event. So with me doing the hosting, I wasn't the presenter, of the event. I was just brought on to do, again, the facilitation, for it. And being able to have, again, the event before the event, facilitate something that's for the virtual audience. And then, of course, then you can have something that maybe is for whether it's a smaller group or a larger group. But being able to leverage both the online and offline space is great. But nowadays, people are really looking to maximize more of what they can do for a global impact. So going back to what I was saying, King Rob, just in terms of these different levels of offerings. So in the digital space, of course, there's the opportunity to produce the products, and whether they are event-oriented products, whether they are your VIP in a box, type of product. Is like, what is it that everybody can't work with you? So can you put a coaching product? Can you make a product to do that? And since we're talking about this, I'd be remiss not to actually share platforms where you can create products. And since this is a virtual lunch and learn, I'll just share those real quick, King Rob. Don't leave people hanging, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah, that's, people need the resources, so.
Yes, they do. Okay, so if you want to create digital products and easily create digital products, there are two platforms that I'm going to recommend. There are others for sure, but these are ones that you can really simply get into action. So whether you're a published author or not, Kindle Direct Publishing, which is a company, a print-on-demand company of Amazon, you can be published in 24 to 72 hours leveraging this platform. It's free to use. You don't even need to have purchase an ISBN, so to speak. They even have free ISBNs, that you can use in book cover templates. Of course, if you want to have someone design something for you, you can certainly do that. Not necessary. Something that I recommend to individuals, whether they again are published or not, is to create micro types of training publications. Those are considered to be low to medium content publications. They can be anywhere from 30 to 70 pages. Certainly you can make them up to 100, but you want to have just a modest amount of content, and then maybe create some type of trainer or workbook, in the back or so, that they can be able to do some interactive exercises, so to speak. So whether they're handbooks, they're manuals, playbooks, journals, how-to books, tip books, you can create a variety, of those, or take one concept and create different versions of it. And there you have products. And when you submit it to Kindle Direct Publishing, again, you can be published within 24 to 72 hours and have your works, up on Amazon. Marketing is another thing, but I'm just talking about product development now. Now, something else that you can do is use Zoom and leverage that for recording, whether it's your video and audio types of products. And these too can be low to medium content types of trainings, micro trainings, so to speak, okay? And once you have those recordings, then you can upload them to a platform called Gumroad, which is very easy to sell on that platform and to upload. They even allow you to use graphic images from Upsplash. There's a feature there. So if you don't do designing for yourself through Canva or have someone to design for you, then you can have images that you can use there. But those are ways that you can repackage and repurpose, I should say, your expertise. Use that as part of your digital business level up, so that you can provide and have a storehouse of opportunities, for people to avail themselves to. And again, in those off seasons or not so peak seasons, then focus on, hey, a product, tour or however. So King Rob, your thoughts around that?
Yeah, those are two good examples. Gumroad is probably, I mean, it's super easy, and there's
Yeah.
and we all know sites like Etsy as well,
Etsy, yes. Mm-hmm.
for opportunities to sell.
Mm-hmm.
You can you can publish, if you're a video creator, you're creating
Mm-hmm.
video products, you can upload videos to YouTube and just make them unlisted.
Unlisted
And
products,
then
right? Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then if you have a series of videos you want to sell as a product, then only the people who make the purchase get the links to those videos on YouTube. So,
Absolutely.
so there's lots
Absolutely.
of different ways to approach it.
Oh, there absolutely are. And I've used all of those formats that you're talking about. And it's tremendous. And the reason why this is important, King Rob, is because, again, we're talking about the digital space, and there's so many opportunities in the digital space, but a lot of times people don't know how to um, see through new eyes things that are right in front of them. And I think when we have tunnel vision in a way that doesn't serve us, um, then we limit it. But when business leaders can be expansive and just say, how can I leverage my time more effectively? How can I serve more people, but more of the right people? Well, have different levels of these opportunities for them. You don't have to create so much, okay? But you may find, like me, it gets addictive. But for those, that's not their thing, is that look at your signature opportunities, but also look at some of the I call them subtle yet significant offers that most of the time people are overlooking, King Rob, that there can be one word or one element in something that you're doing that you can pull out and create something around there. And then you have another strand, if you will, of opportunities, for others. So, wow, we have shared quite a bit, King Rob, in this.
Yeah, well, I mean, you started with this concept of the digital storehouse, and
Yes.
I think we've given a lot of ideas of different ways you can bring together products and services that are made available. If you
Mhm.
think about it, it's the World Wide Web.
That's right.
It's for those of us who are Gen X or older, it was supposed to be a passing fad. We remember those newspaper headlines, I
Mhm.
think, but here it is, and it's exploded, and it presents tremendous opportunity. So it is a web where you
Mhm.
can expand your presence and really create your own digital ecosystem. So
Absolutely.
when you have all of these different uh, products and services in your digital storehouse, and then you
That's
make them
right.
available in different places on the World Wide Web.
That's
You
right.
give people opportunity to get into one and then move to the next, to move to the next and the next, and so
That's
on and so
it.
forth.
That
Uh,
exactly. And if they want to bring this before we close, if they want to bring this into more cohesiveness in terms of whether it's on a blog that's on their site or they want to do it on a different space. Of course, there's other sites that you can use and platforms with a Medium to showcase different things, LinkedIn. But if you want to have a different presence that you can market with consistently, that's your own branding, then you can certainly get an account with tumblr.com and be able to set up some of those products. Also Blogger, which will give you a blogspot URL, but those are great backlinks to have. So there's a multitude of ways. Wix sites are really good. Weebly sites, I use them all and have over the years. And so they're really good to be able to put different products and be able to leverage those, for sure. So before we close out here, King Rob, I guess the best thing is that, we always encourage individuals to create some type of 30 to 90-day game plan. And so you want to be able to, of course, to strategize, but be able to look at the offers and the opportunities that you have and look at what's working and then look at how can you do something a little bit more leveled up, accelerated for that. And then look at something that maybe you've been overlooking and see if there's an opportunity for that. So that all will play in, to the signature storehouse. King Rob and I have a plethora of opportunities and examples for sure that we will have in the description and definitely available to be able to assist business leaders with taking what they do to the next level. And if you're interested in building your own signature storehouse and you need some assistance with product development, look no further because we have done this on multiple levels and certainly here to help assist you, with that for sure. Right, King Rob?
well, always. Yeah, that's what I mean. Especially, I think there's something with our generation, especially. There's something about us that, we didn't grow up with the internet. The digital space has been something we have had to pick up and learn and try to keep up with rapid change. And so that presents a need for some assistance. And so, we've figured it out, and we've figured out some things the hard way. And so
Right,
we
right.
can then provide some shortcuts for people, hopefully.
Absolutely. I hope no one got an image of themselves being on a walker or here.
No, no.
You need some digital help here.
Yeah, I'm old, but I'm not that old.
Oh, exactly. Like, don't date us tremendously here. Didn't make it that obvious, right? No, I'm just kidding. But we are here for that on multiple levels. Whether it's the production, aspect, we definitely have offers and opportunities, for you to explore. And so as we're bringing kind of this lunch and learn series, hate to see this come to an end in a sense, but we have other series, that we do, but we wanted to make sure that we did provide enough of, I guess, robustness in a sense in terms of how business leaders can really level themselves up and maximize the digital space. And we would have been remiss not to talk about building the profitability on the next level before closing this series out, right, King Rob?
Oh, agreed. Yeah, this is it's a necessity. It really is a necessity going forward, especially for the smaller businesses and solopreneurs. This is the way. This is how we're doing things these days. And there's more change coming with AI and all kinds of
Yes,
things. So,
absolutely.
so buckle up.
Exactly, because the ride is just getting started. But if you are always ahead of the game or abreast and you are keeping not just relevant, but also being sensitive to what's emerging. And so there are some things that you're just never going to get around in terms of the digital space. And that is, we've been talking about this as content development, but also having content development that's going to be meaningful for your impact and your income, because those have to be working together like a hand in glove. All right, King Rob Deptford in all your brilliance.
Well, as I said at the start, I just follow your lead.
You are tremendous, and I appreciate you more than words can even convey, for sure. So I've enjoyed doing this series with you, King Rob. As always, it's just great, and I love, what we do together, indeed.
Yeah, well, hopefully we've provided some insights for a few people that will be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we are going to wrap up this virtual lunch and learn. And again, we hope this has been beneficial and that you have gained tremendous food for thought, and that you'll take away what resonates with you the most during this time and start to implement and, of course, execute. And we hope that you'll join us for other productions that we do. Again, be sure to check the description, and we're here for you if you need it. We are wishing you the absolute best in your digital business leader level up. Take care and stay blessed.